Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games. And let's start with EVE Online, where I spent a rather normal amount of time playing EVE Online, especially a little bit of exploration. I did jump back in the all-in-one Ishtar, did a couple of rounds, found some good sites, had some dry streaks as well. Some of the evenings were not that great, but overall a fun experience, I would say, in exploration. I also did a little bit of Abyss running, not that much, because the skillers in the Abyss event is happening. You can earn some extra skill points by going after the objectives, and I must say one of the comments on the video where I was basically very lucky on day one and got two 50,000 skill point missions was ringing true after a couple of days, that the disparity is really very large. Sometimes you can get like 100,000 plus skill points for spending time in the Abyss, and then sometimes you get 3 bad missions and you can earn 15,000 skill points. Now then, of course, you don't need to spend a lot of time in the Abyss in order to earn those 15,000 skill points, just like 5 kills of a certain type, but it can be very frustrating that on an evening where you say, all right, you know, I'm ready for this event, I'm ready to get out there and to get my skill points, and then you don't really get the option to do that. And then on another evening you can log in and say, I don't have a lot of time, and there we go, all of the good missions are there. So perhaps giving us an option, right, when you log in, giving us the tiers that you could go for could be an idea to resolve that. But this is basically something that can really impact someone negatively on both sides, whether it is for the quick and the small reward, or for the more grindy. It takes a bit more effort in order to earn like the 50,000 skill point ones. So understandably this is something that might need to be looked at, because this did feel frustrating on a couple of evenings as well. Next to that, we have our blueprint copy business that is running. My brother is helping out, so right now we have a good number of BPCs that are being created every week, and they're selling pretty well. Especially the larger ships are actually doing quite okay. Orcas, freighters, stuff like that, 10 plus million, 12 million, sometimes even 15 million and up for those, so that is going quite nicely. Structures seem to be down a little bit, basically oversupplied by the market, but we're still moving the product, and the price as well, we're still making a profit on them. That is of course the most important, I would say. After that, we've got PI. I emptied out my planets, got like 500 million in PI ready to go on sale. I still need to transport all of that to Jita, but I think next week we'll do a couple of extra trips to Jita in order to get that going. And it's not the best time to be selling stuff, but I'm producing coolants as well, which is still doing okay. Sell prices are around average, and mechanical parts, everything that's tied to fuels, is also struggling, but has like a bit of a stronger demand base, and so the sellers are doing better there. For a lot of the other PI products, it is a difficult time right now with very, very low prices. But overall, very happy with my time in EVE Online. Things are pretty stable, the services are up and running, quite a bit of activity in Dital as well. So people are obviously using the facilities, which is great. And next to that, I'm looking forward to, I think next up will be the anniversary of EVE Online. We've got a special battlecruiser event planned, and something that I read in a thread on Reddit is that this is very likely to indicate that we might that we'll see a Society of Conscious Thought battlecruiser as well as part of the gift packages. Definitely an interesting theory, something that could happen, and it would be cool, of course, to have a new battlecruiser to play around with that basically requires next to no skills, can use all the weapon systems. If it follows that same idea as like the Praxis, then it would be very cool, and I look forward to that as well. And after that, of course, we've got the storyline that's coming. That should be very interesting as well, to see what the Triclavians are going to do, and what the Eclipse part is going to bring to EVE Online. Next up, I spent a little bit more time in Path of Exile, basically finishing the Delirium League by doing something fun, spend a little bit of the currency that I still had left over in order to try and create a character that I've been wanting to make for a very long time, since I've seen videos on the possibility of making like a self-cast loop with cast when damage taken, and that's what I did with my Elementalist. Went of course for the Ignite amulet that does 100 damage whenever you ignite an opponent, and that within rings that recover life at the same time can get you a stable loop where you just keep casting stuff as long as you're igniting enemies. It doesn't work on a single enemy, so my loop isn't there just yet, but whenever it's in packs it is pretty cool. And of course I did also go for lots of ignite damage, ignite chance, fire damage, stuff like that. So despite the fact that we have the lowest tier cast when damage taken stuff, in low maps we are actually clearing packs pretty quickly and effectively. It's a lot of fun. It was definitely doable, and I think there's even more to get out of that build. To be honest, it was just a fun side project, something that I've been wanting to do, and it's part of what I really like about Path of Exile. Compare that to Diablo 3, where of course you also can do some crazy stuff, but anything that really comes even close to threatening the servers, threatening client stability, or being completely overpowered gets nerfed into oblivion by Blizzard in next to no time. At least here in this league, which had some problems with stability early on. Now in my latest play sessions, no crashes, nothing. That was a lot better all of a sudden. You do have some crazy stuff that you can do, and Path of Exile is still open to that, so which is really cool. Of course, if you get that slightly overpowered, well, I'm gonna say actually really overpowered Archmage support, that you know, working with some spell combinations is just kind of crazy how well it scales. And then you've got stuff like these damage loops that you can create, self-cast loops. You know, it's just cool. You know, there's a channel, not exactly sure what it's called right now, but I do watch quite a few of those videos about crazy builds that are created with uniques that have very weird synergies that work with certain abilities. It's just something that can still be done in Path of Exile. It's not all exactly planned out and put on a very strict rails. You can go out there and create some crazy characters, crazy builds in Path of Exile, and that's definitely part of the fun as well, that you can still come into new stuff, cool stuff like that. That's not so predictable, you know, where it's not just about time and the grind. That's basically what determines Diablo for like 99%, I'm gonna say, where here creativity, trying new stuff in Path of Exile, there is still room for that, and hopefully it'll continue to work that way. And I think the way they're developing it at the moment gives it a high chance for that, because well, they just keep adding to the leagues, which keeps adding new mechanics and new rewards as well, new ways to build your characters, and all of that of course can potentially provide some crazy synergies, which will lead to some crazy builds. So yeah, a little bit more Path of Exile, definitely had some fun there as well. And then for the final game last week, I also spent a little bit more time in X4 Foundations. Now, not too much, it was mostly in the first part of the week, where I basically tried to, you know, develop back from the setback that was the defense station with the big plasma guns that eventually took out a ship that I didn't want it to take out. It was an Argon miner that basically parked itself right in front of my guns. A small Xenon ship came through and it was blown up. All my rep gone. Very frustrating. So I decided to switch to a different route on a previous save game, where I was focusing a little bit more on economic output. So I spent quite a bit more cash in the blueprint so that I could get some more refined materials in the production loops and things like that. Got a couple of interesting interesting stations going for that. And I also did build up a fleet of destroyers rather than smaller ships, which, I mean, if they go up against something like a Xenon K, small ships just get eaten alive and you lose too many of them. For them to remain effective, it's, I think, a lot more efficient to just grab some of these destroyers. They have those longer range weapons, and so if you position them correctly, you can actually take down stations and larger targets much more effectively. And they've got so much HP and shield regen that they're not really threatened by like 10, 20 small ships. You know, they just slowly cut them down, not a problem. I actually use beam weapons, which are not great in and of themselves, but of course they have that good tracking, so I minimize the risk for friendly fire. And just, you know, having 10 of them sit on a gate does mean that you have an effective blockade that can still handle the larger targets as well, thanks to their long-range weaponry. So something that did work out. I managed to get some interesting stations going as well. Got a little bit of profit out of them. Made my own construction ship as well, so I don't always have to hunt for one that's not busy, and just, you know, took a look around, enjoyed a little bit more X4 Foundations, and basically I think at a point where I could continue, pick it back up at any time. Nothing is outlandish when it comes to the wars or the situations there. I just feel like I could continue to build up, maybe try some story stuff, maybe try some exploration stuff. Some other things are definitely still possible in the game right now. I've been focusing a lot on the economic game and then getting a fleet going that can really help counter almost whatever the game throws at me. And I think like Xenon stuff is definitely a big part of that, giving you the tests. And well, that defense station, it was a very cool idea. It was very fun to sit in first-person view on that station right in front of the huge weapons. Of course, from that standpoint I would then fire at those Xenon, but eventually you'll get some friendly fire with those plasma weapons, and that's really something that yeah, I can't really afford to have happen the way I enjoy playing the game. So that was my experience in X4 as well, and this was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.